G'day, it's Daryl Nicholson down at the Burke Wills, and I'm just going to take a little break today from politics and do something a bit different. My next interview coming up is with a gentleman I've known since I was a teenager, Mr. Graham Healy from 4GR days, and a state politician and an all-round good bloke. So enjoy this interview with Graham. Take care. Okay, here we go. G'day, welcome back to the show. Daryl Nicholson, Toowoomba 4358 TV with Graham Healy. How are you, Graham?
I'm really well, Nico. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Oh, no worries. Look, we're down here at the beautiful Burke Wills. This is my go-to place. I love it here. I mean, I can game, I can play Keno, I can have a drink. I've eaten everything on the menu, so it's really cool.
Yep.
So, Graham, we go back a long way, and I was thinking this morning that I've got to tell you a funny story. You remember my old man?
Yep.
Every Sunday he used to drop Mum and I and my sister to the shrine, and he'd say, "See you later, guys. You got one cross. I'm going up for the 4 up the road with your dad's pub."
Yep, that's right. Which we had for 38 years.
Yep.
The Gladstone Hotel, which is now, of course, the Rock and the Oaks. It was a wonderful upbringing, being in a hotel, being born into a hotel. My brother and I were supposed to be third-generation hoteliers, but we saw just how hard Mum and Dad were working, and we both said, no, that's not our way of life, and we went on to various occupations after that.
Oh, wow. And, mate, 4GR, I think it's 150 years old this year.
Yeah,
4GR,
it is. Yeah, yep. A lot of history there with the first commercial radio license in Queensland. I started there in 1977.
That's right.
And spent most of my radio career with 4GR, and just had a ball. It was just a wonderful, wonderful occupation, a wonderful life. Met a lot of great people, talked to a lot of great people, and I have some wonderful memories of that radio station.
Yeah, I came here in 78 and remember listening to you, and met the legendary Russ Wilson.
Yep.
Who's retired now.
Yes, he has. Yeah. Well, he was my boss in 1977, and I still catch up with Russ occasionally as well. And we both share some great memories.
So how many years were you at GR for?
Initially about 15, and then I decided to put my hand up for state politics. Right. Was lucky enough to win the election in 1992. Spent 9 years in the Parliament of Queensland, and then after that was all over, back to radio again for about another 15, 18 years.
Yeah. So 9 years, was that 3 terms?
Yeah, 3 terms.
So
yep.
People at Toowoomba what was it called back then?
Toowoomba North.
Toowoomba North.
Yep.
They entrusted you to look after them for 9
years.
Yeah, they
did. Yeah, and it was a great experience, and it was an absolute privilege to be somebody. A number of very few people who have been privileged enough to stand in the halls of Parliament House in Brisbane, and it was a great experience.
What was the most memorable thing you remember about being in Parliament for 9 years?
Oh, look, I think initially I was as scared as anything. Having had not a lot of political experience before, to have to stand in the Parliament, I was used to being behind a microphone and talking to people and having people not talk back to me. Yep. But of course in the Parliament, you're copping interjections all the time, and they're calling you all sorts of names. Yeah. And I thought, oh wow, what have I got myself into? Eventually you get used to it. You get used to the way the Parliament works. You've got to understand standing orders, otherwise you get yourself into all sorts of embarrassing strife. And after a while, you get used to it, and you give as much as you got.
Yeah, I see what goes on down there sometimes, and I look at David Janetsky and David Christofouli. Man, they must have thick skins.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing. You've got to have a pretty tough hide in politics, as a lot of the candidates for the forthcoming federal election are finding now that there's criticism coming from everywhere. You've got to be able to cop it. You've got to be able to respond to it, and you've got to be prepared. And that's the main thing, is to have your brief prepared, so that you don't make a foolish mistake, because otherwise, you'll get crucified for it.
And I guess the 9 years you were in, there wasn't Instagram or Facebook or any of the social media stuff that just haunts you.
When I was first elected, the only thing we had was a pager.
Yep.
And that was it. And you were paged, you had to go and make a phone call, so you had to duck out and try and find a phone. There were no such things. I remember Tony Elliott, who was the member for Cunningham at the time, came into the Parliament with a big box, like a leather box, and I said to Tony, "What's that?" He said, "It's a mobile phone." And I went, "Wow." I said, "Do you ring anybody?" He said, "I don't know anybody else who's got one."
I remember I worked for Clive Armitage when I was 14, and Clive it was the biggest thing, and he took us all to Expo 88, and he's walking around big belt around his shoulder, carrying this thing, and I thought, wow, I mean, and I never thought we'd, like today I'm using the phone here to record this.
Yeah.
And I've bought a professional camera, and I went to buy a GoPro, and the guy at, I won't mention which camera shop it was, he said, I've seen your stuff, just use your phone.
Yeah.
And when people see, like I'm doing dawn service tomorrow, people have come up to me when I've done the lives here and gone, mate, what camera do you use? And I go, the old Samsung.
Yeah, look, the technology these days is phenomenal. I think we're privileged in the fact that we grew into this technology. Mm-hmm. It came along, we had to adapt to it. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I find it just fascinating, the things that you're able to do with phones and iPads and even your own personal computer these days, and the communication that has opened up for the whole world. And sometimes you just wonder whether Big Brother's actually watching you.
Yeah, I know. 2015, my cousin in London, he messaged me. I wasn't on Facebook. He goes, man, you got to get on Facebook. It's amazing. I'm like, I didn't. Then 2016, I started this, and now I've got just over 10,000 followers now. And my videos get between a couple of hundred views up to, I've had views of 200,000 views, depending on the content I have. So
no, I was exactly the same as you. And when someone suggested Facebook, I just said, no, I'll never get on Facebook.
Mate, interesting. I went to the luncheon for the hospice. I just want to briefly talk about that. Kerry Beatros is an interesting character.
Yeah.
From People's Choice, he's now, or Heritage Bank, he's now retired. But take us a bit through that lunch, and he had some funny stories that day.
Yeah, and of course Kerry was attended the same school as I did at St Mary's, and he was my school captain in 1968. So we go back a long way because of the fact that my mum and dad had a business in town, the hotel. Beatros Brothers were across the road, and the wholesale at the back. So I had a lot to do with the Beatros family, you know, with all the boys, with Murray and Bevan and Peter. That was an interesting story about Peter, who was a rugby league referee in Brisbane and was on the sideline at that famous State of Origin match when Wally Lewis was sin-binned.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole crowd in the grandstand threw cans onto the field on his side.
I was there that night.
And I think it was after that they banned cans from Lang Park.
Yep. I remember being at on the hill, and someone, might have been Glenn Sugden, I think, got this can of beer and threw it, and Wally caught it and cracked it open and sculled it. It was just some great times down at the old Lang Park, which I love. The ABC, they still refer to it as Lang Park. Yeah,
they do, obviously for commercial reasons.
Yep.
But it's the home of rugby league, and I just hope that, you know, the big matches are always still played there. But of course, you and I would go back to the days of the Brisbane Rugby League when, you know, you had your eastern suburbs and your valleys, diehards, and those guys playing, Redcliffe and Wynnum Manly playing in grand finals at Lang Park, and the place was just jam packed.
Yeah.
It was you know, jam packed full of fans. Great rugby league.
What with your radio career, what's your most memorable moment you can remember?
There's a lot of them. But I guess over the years, the opportunity to interview celebrities, and some of them were the nicest guys. I'll never forget, Leo Sayer came to Toowoomba.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew Leo Sayer not only sang, but he also was a very good musician, and he played harmonica. And I had a harmonica at home, so I brought it in. And after the interview, he was there at the radio station for about 2 hours. He went around to all of the people in the station, got to sign autographs. He was just a lovely man. Anyway, at the end of the interview, I said, do you still play harmonica? He said, yeah, have you got one? I said, I certainly do. Gave it to him. This is live on air. Yeah. He played this harmonica like I've never heard anyone play before. That's one of the great highlights, was the fact that there were so many people who made a name for themselves, particularly in the music industry, but when you talk to them face to face, they're just the loveliest people.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I remember a fellow, and you might remember him, Larry Dwyer, worked at 4GR, and John Lennon was murdered in New York City, and these words still echo in my head, and Larry Dwyer said, do not ever forget this name, Mark David Chapman.
Yep.
And I never have, and that's one thing I do remember. It was a sad thing, but it's funny how music and radio just bring back memories for you.
Oh, absolutely. And growing up in an era of, I think, wonderful music, and that's the 60s and 70s and early 80s, you know, you listen to radio today and you think young people are missing out on, I think, quality quality music, because that was, the start of rock and roll with groups like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and all of those, and it was just wonderful to grow up and great to be able to play that music on air.
And tomorrow, this is recorded Thursday the 24th, tomorrow is Anzac Day, and I got quite a surprise last year when I got down to the Mothers Memorial and you're the MC.
Yeah, for the first time, it was an absolute honour to be able to do the dawn service. I always admired Bill Hills when Bill used to be the MC for many, many years. Bill retired now. They asked me if I'd like to do the dawn service. This year I've got the lot. I've got the wreath laying ceremony and the main morning service as well. So, look, I just find it an absolute privilege to be able to perform that particular duty on Anzac Day, because it means so much to a lot of people. And the number of people that turn up at Anzac Day dawn service now is just phenomenal. And more young people. And I think one of the really great highlights now of the mid-morning service is that the guest speaker is a school captain from one of the secondary schools. And the effort and the preparation that these young people put into their speech is phenomenal. It really is, and I'm looking forward to this year's again as well.
I'm looking forward to it as well. I've got a late night tonight, but I'll be up. I mean, last year I just didn't sleep before I went there and set up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and Jimmy and all the crew were there setting up all the sound gear. So
I've got 2 alarms ready to go in case one doesn't work.
I set a few more than that with my body clock, but no, that's good stuff. And so now retirement for you. You retired. Any apart from hosting the odd luncheon, any extracurricular activities you're doing?
I'm very much involved with the Toowoomba Turf Club. I'm the treasurer on the committee there, have been for quite a few years, and I'm also, of course, on the board of management of the Toowoomba Hospice, and that's a really wonderful organisation, as you know, and it's just a privilege to be on that board as well with Graham Barron, who's been the chairman now for a bit over 23 years. But to see the amount of love and care that are given to people who are spending their last days of their life and their families. It's an organisation that deserves the support of the community. It has had the support of the community, and it's wonderful to be involved with that. Then, of course, I try and keep myself as fit as I can. As often as I can go to a gym or do some walking, and a couple of grandsons to look after occasionally as well. So, yeah, that keeps me busy.
Great. And look, just on the hospice, I love the work the hospice do, and I did a podcast around COVID time, or pre-COVID it might have been, with a guy named Andrew McCarthy Wood from Join the Adventure, and he rang me on the Monday morning and he goes, "Darryl, we're interviewing this Mark Monroe. He runs a hospice." I said, "Yeah, yes, that's where people die." I said, "Can you just go through and let's just do this thing?" And at the end of it, he said, "That was a brilliant interview with Mark, and to understand what a hospice was about." And maybe we got so many listeners to that podcast. It was amazing. Yeah.
And Mark was the very first employee of the Toowoomba Hospice 22 years ago. He's still there. He still does a wonderful, wonderful job, as do our clinical staff, our director of nursing. They're just wonderful. It really is a great organisation.
It is. It's fantastic. Righto. Well, mate, I think that's about where I was sort of thinking we would go, and we might catch up again after the dawn service and lay down another chat. But no, interesting career you've had, and exciting times. So I'm glad you're enjoying retirement. I don't know whether I'll ever retire. I saw Jimmy Aspro the other day, and Jimmy's still working, and he said, "Don't you quit. Just keep working." I'm only 60 days.
Yeah, mate, thank you very much again for the invitation to have a chat, and I love the work that you do with Toowoomba 4350. I'm a great fan.
Oh, good stuff. Really do appreciate it. Okay, well, that's about it. It's Graham Healy. You can go back. There is some videos on YouTube with the history of 4GR, and I was watching that the other night. It's just quite a fascinating story, but they're 150 years old, which is now called Triple M AM. But anyhow, that's all good. AM stereo. And I love Lee Faulkner. I think he does a great job in our city too. Yeah, look, I've known Lee for so long. I remember when he first came from Kingaroy, and he and I have been mates for all that time, and he's a wonderful talent. And yeah, they'll miss him whenever he decides to pull the pin, because he's a great talent and a wonderful bloke. I saw him at the Wagners when the Wagners' 10th birthday, when they had Lee Kernaghan. I said, "When are you going to hang the hat up?" He goes, "Don't know, Nico, but one day it'll just happen." So, but he does a great job in our community as well. Graham, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Really
Nico.
do appreciate it.
Good on you.
If you hear Nico, it's because we go back a long way. That was my DJ name back in the 80s. So when everyone calls me Nico, I go, they know me from the 80s. Nowadays it's Dazza as I get older. So, but look, thanks for watching, and I want to thank the Burke and Wills. I'll catch up with Donnelly Ballard later, the general manager, and say we used your space, but she won't mind at all. She knows I love this venue. But anyhow, thanks for coming on the show. I'm Daryl Nicholson with Graham Healy, Toowoomba 4350 TV. It's more than just a postcode. It's all about community. Take care.